Talking Seahawks with Big Ray Roberts joining us on the Emerald Queen Casino Sportsbook Hotline. Hey, Big Ray, how's it going?
It's going all right. How you guys doing?
Good, good. We had the offensive line was kind of like our number one question, the number one question for so many fans entering the preseason. As always, we have questions for you about this group, but we're going to talk about a lot when it comes to the Seahawks. I am going to start, though, Big Ray, with your observations, your feeling about the offensive line through 2 preseason games in camp so far.
Well, I will say that one thing I know for sure is that they are operating a system that is proven and that works, and that you can see the plan that they're trying to execute, and you can also see how the players have bought into it, and just from their energy, the way they approach the plays, the way they execute the plays, the intensity at which they try to finish blocks and drives and things. To me, that's one indication that the offensive line room has bought into what it is that this staff is bringing to the table.
Big Ray, the Seahawks got busy in the run blocking on Friday night. I imagine you, being the offensive lineman that you are, brought a tear to your eye, a tear of joy. What was it like for you watching them put up nearly 300 rushing yards? Yes, it's a preseason game, but what was it like for you watching them put up nearly 300 rushing yards on that Chiefs team? Well,
it's hard to put up 300 rushing yards in practice, and so it doesn't really, it was still like a great feat of what they did. And then the other part of it is that it wasn't gimmicky or anything. It was like guys blocking dudes. There's a drill that I used to do with Howard Mudd called fit and finish, and that means you get into the block, you drive your feet, and then you finish the block. And there was a lot of that going on in this game, and I just really love the plan that they have, like with their outside zone or wide zone, if you want to call it that, with the way that they can use misdirection in there. There's some plays where they look like they're going to run the ball, then they throw it, and there's 1 or 2 where they look like they're going to run a counter to the right, but it's actually a misdirection to the left. And so it seems like, hey, there's a little trickeration in that, but it's all rooted in very foundational football, and it's all based on not allowing the defense to be right. So as soon as the linebackers run to the right side to make a play, the play is designed to go to the left side, so you kind of use your leverage against them. And so I love how they do that. In the run game, it's important for 2 things, when you play design. One is you either gain a numbers advantage on the side of attack, or you gain an angles advantage. And so by all the pulling and the and the fullback and the tight ends in motion and those types of things, you're creating sometimes both of those to your advantage on one play.
This team was not very good with the run last year. Is that something that running backs have to unlearn bad habits, or could they feasibly hit the ground running this year, if everything kind of gets moving? I guess what I'm asking, Ray, is, as you know, one of the critiques has been, Ken Walker just, maybe he doesn't trust the offensive line. And is there a feel that's lost for a player?
I don't think so. And I don't think that Ken Walker doesn't trust the offensive line. That's just his style of running. Running backs are very instinctual. It's probably the most instinctual position on the field. And so you try to go, hey, we're running this to the outside. And so that's where you're going to start going. And then it's really a lot of times it's just on their intuition and just their feel of the game and stuff like that. It's less of a assignment thing and more of a, hey, here's the area we're trying to attack things. So you get a player that's really creative like K9, and so then you have to live and die with those things. Sometimes they're big plays, and then sometimes they're not so big plays. So I don't think it's a matter of trust, but you can trust in what the plan is, and the plan just looks more trustworthy than it did last year. And then the other part of it is, I've always said this, is that play design and play calling are both just as big a part of offensive line development as the actual just teaching the techniques. So if you don't have a play design and a play call that takes advantage of the strengths that you have on offense and on the offensive line and mitigates the weaknesses, then you're just setting them up for failure. Just all together. And it seems like when Kubiak and those guys came in, they said there are players here that can fit what we want to do. And so they weren't super active in free agency and bringing in veterans and things. They felt like they had guys here that could do what they needed to do. And then they got a great draft in Gray Zabel. And they have some guys that can execute what they want to do. These guys can move and run. They're athletic. They can block on the run, those types of things. And so I think they have a system that will give them a greater chance at being successful in the running game this year.
Ray, you mentioned Zabel. The casual observer might not be able to pick up on some things that you would on the offensive line. What have you made of his first couple of games of action on this Seahawks offensive line?
Well, first I'll say this, is that, coming from the level of college that he played, there was a lot of people questioning whether or not he should be drafted that high and what the competition was like and all this other kind of stuff, and maybe underestimating what he did at the Senior Bowl. But from watching the film, I got wind of him before the Senior Bowl, I think it was his junior year, and just started kind of watching him. This dude has the whole makeup to be successful. I mean, at a very high level. He's athletic, he's strong, he's smart. He plays with kind of like a dog mentality, and I love that. And so when I watch film, though, I'm not looking exactly for just the outcome of the play. So I know I try to flex a little bit, but I learned this game from the best, and I played at a very high level, and I was a really good football player. And so I don't look for just the finished product. I'm looking at your footwork, the angles that you're taking, where your hand placement is, your pad level, all those types of things that when a defender is studying you, that's what they're looking for. They're not just going like, oh, man, he finished the block 2 yards down the field. They're going like, what is it that he's doing that I can take advantage of? So when you take a bad step or you take a bad angle or your hands are outside when they should be inside, all these different types of things are the things I look for. And so those are the things I thought he made a huge improvement on from the week 1 to week 2. Like his hand placement in the run game was beautiful. I think he had one really bad pass set, but he kind of recovered and fell back to the inside and was able to stay connected to the guy to complete the block. But those are the things that defenders look for. Like, for instance, Kurt, there was one time I got called for false start 3 or 4 times, and I couldn't understand what was happening. I didn't think I was moving. But then my own team, the defenders on our own team was like, Ray, right before the ball snaps, even when your hand is on the ground, your elbow moves just a little bit. And that's what guys are moving off of. And that's what the referee is saying. I wasn't aware that I was doing that because I'm like, my hand is still on the ground. Like, what are you talking about? And so they study everything, every little thing that's going to give them an advantage. And so that's why, when I get in these debates with people on social media, it's like, yeah, you're just looking at how it ended. I'm thinking about the next play and the next game and 5 games down the road and this opponent and that opponent and how you study players and break things down. But I thought he made a huge jump from week 1 to week 2 in the preseason, and so he'll just have to keep doing that all year long because he's gonna see things he hasn't seen before because they're gonna break him down to the nth degree for every week, every game, every opponent. And so that's why that position along the offensive line is really, really hard to learn and be great at because there's a lot in the first year or 2 that you're learning you may have never seen in your life before. And so, but he did a good job from week 1 to week 2.
I think the 2 things that fascinate me most about the position in hearing you talk about it are some of the mental hurdles and the mental obstacles, the things that are going to be maybe only you or other former offensive linemen can understand what Gray's going through as he develops. The other thing is going to be the guys that aren't Gray. So Anthony Bradford coming in for yet another year. Mm-hmm. I think that there are certain guys that get into year 2, 3, 4, and if they don't burst onto the scene and look really good in year 1 and 2, people are like, they just missed. That didn't work out. Yeah. And it's like the development of the offensive line can sometimes be so different for so many different players, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I just said, I'm sure the staff that was there last year were good coaches. I don't know that they were ready to jump on the scene and restore an offensive line and an offense that was struggling and all those types of things. I don't know that they had the cachet in the room. And because you have to, when you're coming into a team, whether you're an established coach or not, you have to try to convince these people that your stuff is going to work really, really quickly. Like you can't wait until like halfway through the season and be like, see, I told you. You know, it's like they want to know right away the things you're teaching me, am I going to be successful doing it? And when you start to doubt that, then you start to doubt the coach and you're not really listening and you're just kind of out there on your own. You're doing what you have to do. But speaking of Bradford, I will say these first two games are the best that I've seen him play since he's been here. He looks like he's in better shape. And for him, it has never been about his ability. It's always been about the mindset, whether he wants to be focused and do this for 4 quarters. And it looks like so far he hasn't played 4 quarters, but it seems like the plays that he's been in there, he has been committed to been engaged the entire game, been focused the entire game, not giving up, bad penalties or bad plays or sacks because he just kind of doesn't seem interested. He seems very interested and motivated. And if he can stay that way and he and Zabel can grow, man, this offensive line, the potential is the sky's the limit for this offensive line.
Yeah, Bradford has definitely looked improved during the preseason. Sticking with the interior of that offensive line, looking at the center battle, Olu has got the experience last season, especially after Connor Williams retired. But also Jalen Sundell has looked really good as well in the preseason. Ray, if you're putting together this offensive line, do you go with the hot hand in Sundell, or is it Olu's job, even with Sundell's performance so far?
Well, to me, I think Sundell probably has like the edge athletically over Olu. Olu's a very smart, bright dude. He's not going to make a ton of mistakes, and he's going to be on top of. I mean, to me, he might be the smartest dude on the entire team. And so he's not going to have any of those kind of mental breakdowns and things. But then physically, I think he could be limited a little bit athletically. So I think they're going to have a hard decision to make because they both have made a case for being the starter. And I hope that they just pick one of the dudes to ride with so they're not going into the season saying, oh, it's still a battle at center. Like that doesn't help to me. So I think right now, just because Olu's been injured and hasn't played a ton of the games, the plays in the preseason, if you're preparing for the game and you've seen what Sundell has put on tape, man, you have to really strongly consider, starting the season with him. I mean, he looks the part. He plays tough and aggressive and physically, and he's a really good athlete at that position. So from what I've seen, I think it was Olu's job to lose coming into the preseason, but I think that Sundell has kind of leveled the playing field, and someone in this last week or two is going to really have to step up and own it versus waiting for. They're going to have to make the decision for the coaches instead of waiting for the coaches to make a decision.
Curtis pointed out earlier in the show that it sure feels like a lot of national voices are turning towards a more optimistic view of the Seahawks offense compared to how they were a couple months ago. Ray, when you look at the Seahawks offense, do you think they could be much better than people think? What's your kind of overall outlook, like ceiling of what they could do?
Yeah, I would probably say I was probably riding with the national perspective on it because I just, on paper, before you got to see anything, I was just like, man, like where are the big plays are going to come from? Like, the receivers are good receivers. JSN is a fast dude, but he's not a DK Metcalf type dude. And so you just didn't know where the explosiveness from the offense was going to come from. But then after this second game, you can see where if the running game is going, you can get some big plays in the running game, but it also then sets up play action pass so guys can get deeper down the field for deeper throws and deeper passes and those types of things. So you can start to see how this offense works or this scheme works with this offense and the personnel they have there. So then you have to then have a little bit more optimism. I don't think that that anybody was expecting that type of explosion against the Kansas City Chiefs, even if they're playing their backups. No one, I don't think, expected to see that type of execution in the run game, that type of success in the run game. The rush for 250, almost 300 yards was pretty impressive. And so if it didn't kind of turn your mind towards something more positive, then you're just trying to be a hater just to be a hater.
For real. Ray, last one from me. Two big-name pass rushers could be available via trade. Trey Hendrickson, it sounds like the Bengals are starting to listen to offers on him, and then obviously Micah Parsons in Dallas. That whole situation not really close to being resolved. Do you think the Seahawks are in position to maybe hit the fast-forward button a little bit here and go after a big name, or should they continue maybe plotting along the course that they have laid out for themselves?
Yeah, I don't tend to go down those rabbit holes, but I would just say this is the team seems to be in a place where they have a lot of depth at some different positions, in the DB room and the running back room. They're creating some really great depth. Even the backup offensive lineman came in and played well. They have a ton of dudes on the defensive line, and they're starting to develop some depth, at the linebacker position. So you may have some pieces you can move, but, man, sometimes when you just subtract one little piece, it can throw off the whole group. And so you have to decide whether or not this person that you're going to trade for and the pieces you're going to give up, in what way is it going to help you?